This morning, I am Messi Babajide, and of course, on the press, we do not just do newspaper reviews. Of course, we bring you up to date on what is happening in the society. But trust me, this press this morning comes with a twist. And of course, I'm not alone.
I am Amadi Bobby James.
And of course, today with us not in the studio, of course, we would like you to join us with the Governor-elect of Plateau State in person of Governor-elect Mutfwang. Welcome to the studio.
Thank you.
Good morning.
Babajide and your colleague.
Good morning, sir.
I didn't see the name. Morning.
Okay, this is Mercy and Bobby James right here in the studio.
Okay, Mercy and James.
Yes, sir. All right, congratulations are in order, Mr. Governor.
Thank you.
All right, sir. Let's get to business. I would like to say before we get into the nitty-gritty of today, we'd like you to shed more light into what you'll be doing as the governor for Plateau State in respect to insecurity going on in Plateau for now.
Thank you, Mercy. The protracted crisis we've had about insecurity is something we are determined to arrest and put behind us. We hope to bring new perspectives on security management when we're sworn in. And critical to that is building confidence in the citizenry that as a government we mean business about tackling the insecurity situation, that the security of lives and property matter to government. And that is one of the constitutional responsibilities we will swear to undertake. So going from there, we will try to do a needs assessment of all the structures that have been put in place in terms of managing security, like the peace building agency of government. But one way to strengthen the mandate of that agency is to mainstream it down to every level of authority from the grassroots. We're dealing with community authorities, down to development associations, right to dealing with the vigilantes, the hunters group. All these will be properly harnessed and mainstreamed into the security architecture. Of course, we do realize that, strictly speaking, security is under the authority of the federal government in terms of the security forces. I think we can do better in managing those security forces by showing empathy towards them, because they're also putting their lives on the line. And we need to show them that their lives matter. And therefore, whatever resources we deploy towards managing security, I believe we can be able to get better results.
Okay.
You
all right,
must
thank
have
you for that. Let me cut in. Before you go further, there is, of course, the bedeviling issue going on right now with security personnel in Nigeria. You've made mention of going to the grassroots. Of course, that would work because, of course, we've seen it work in different states in Nigeria. Yes. But then now let's talk about the Nigerian police force itself. Do you think anything would be done concerning those particular agency right now when you become the governor? Or you are the governor already. Sure. Congratulations.
Yes, I am governor-elect, waiting to be sworn in by God's grace, May 29. I think we can still get a lot out of the police. That's why I was saying it's about man management skills. Oftentimes, we do not, we feel they are just people to be used. But I think we must treat them as human beings and let them know that their lives matter. Some of them get killed in the line of duty, and what happens to their families thereafter is of concern. So we must be able to show empathy towards them and be able to, of course, our supervisory mechanism over those agencies must be strengthened so that we ensure that whatever specific assignments are given, that we expect the results, and that if they fall short of our expectations, that sanctions are applied. I believe that we can get more from managing the police.
Okay, all right. Thank you, Mr. Governor. I'm taking this right out of one of your interviews, or rather, one of the this thing you did during your governorship campaign. You spoke about education and infrastructure deficits. You said even teachers are qualified and not properly trained. What do you mean by that, Mr. Governor?
Yeah. If you do a needs assessment, and don't forget, I was also the chairman of local government.
Yes, correct.
In 2014 into 2015, I was the chairman of Mangu local government with one of the highest number of teachers in the state. So I've related with teachers at the grassroots, basic education, and I can tell you, many of them fall short of the standard you expect or you find in the private institutions. And it's a systemic problem that we need to find a way to break in. It's a sort of a vicious cycle. You find that the people with the lowest grades in JAM are the people that end up in colleges of education. And they manage to scrape through. They come out and they are taken to the primary schools with the NCE. And of course, their output is not the best. And so we need to be able to raise standards. We need to be able to ensure that monitoring and evaluation takes place within the education sector. We need to be able to have minimum standards that people can aspire to. I believe that every primary school student should be able to have a basic grasp of English and mathematics before you go further. Now, these are some of the places where you find inadequacies. So we need to invest in training and retraining of teachers so that we can raise their quality. It is garbage in, garbage out.
Yes.
You can't give what you do not have. So these are basic realities we must confront.
All right. Before Bobby goes further, I've always been an advocate of bringing history back in our Nigerian education. Do you think this is something we should look forward to in Plateau State?
Sure, Mercy. I'm a student of history myself. I don't think there's any aspect of human endeavor that you can do away with history. History tells you where you're coming from, where you are at this point in time, and what you can leverage upon to go to the future. So history is critical. It's not whether history is relevant or not, it's which aspect of history do we need to bring back into the education curriculum. And I think this is where we need to have a conversation on what is appropriate in terms of history. I don't know whether talking about Mungo Park is important for us now, as much as talking about some of the, maybe we need to study how Rwanda came out of the war in Rwanda, and today is a reference point in development. Maybe that's a more relevant history than going to talk about how Mungo Park discovered Africa. I think this is a relative question.
Okay, yeah, Mungo Park is relative to what I was going to say, because I was talking about the history about the political happenings in Nigeria over time, before, post-democracy, pre-democracy. So do you think this is actually something we should look forward to? Because it feels like Nigerians are not updated, but due to these elections, people actually went all out, read the constitution. Of course, they've said if you want to hide something from a black man, put it in the middle of a book, you won't be able to find it. But in this case, it was different for this election. So I'd like you to shed more light on the bringing prehistory of Nigeria democracy back to to Plateau State.
Democracy, you would say, has always been part of us in society. If you are talking about party politics, which began in Nigeria sometime in 1922, with during the colonial era, right to the First Republic in the 60s, to the Second Republic with Shehu Shagari in 1979, the Third Republic under the military arrangement of Babajide, and then, of course, the Fourth Republic where we are today. I think in terms of practice, we've come a long way. But then I must say that we haven't learned vital lessons because we keep repeating the same mistakes. One of the critical aspects of our democracy that hasn't developed well, I must confess, is the electoral process. It's still fraudulent with a lot of hiccups that are totally unnecessary and are occasioned due to human shortcomings. The recent election, I will tell you, for example, some people deliberately set out to shortchange the system. Of course, I must commend the INEC body on the Plateau. They did exceptionally well, refreshingly different from what happened in many parts of the country. But again, the impression we had was the BVAS machine was found proof, but we have cases in this election where the BVAS machine was bypassed. People will always want to cut corners. And again, because we haven't built institutions that have the capacity to withstand the attempts to be able to shortchange the system. And this is where I think we need to work on going forward if we're going to strengthen our democracy.
All right,
Okay, Governor-elect. Quick question. The former president of Nigeria and the person of His Excellency Musa Yar'Adua passed said the process that brought him in wasn't credible enough. Now let's talk about the process, the electoral process that happened in just Plateau State. I'm happy you talked about the elections. Would you say it was credible, and what lessons have you learned from this past election?
Thank you,
James.
James. Thank you, James. I would say, by and large, to a very large extent, the process that brought me on was credible. Okay. Now, in our climes, the advantage always rests with the government in power. They have the resources, they have the influence to deploy in terms of trying to influence for good or bad what happens within the electoral system. Now, for an opposition party to be able to trump over the party in power, it takes a lot. And I think if the INEC officials on the Plateau particularly were not people of integrity, particularly the core leadership, if they were not persons of integrity, we would not be talking of me today as governor-elect. So I must salute them. But at the same time, down the other levels of authority within INEC, we saw deliberate collusion to try to shortchange and sabotage the system. And we had to keep close watch. We did night vigils at collection centers, and I praise our young people. We did what Nigerians would call bumper to bumper to be able to get some of the results we got. If not, the system would have been shortchanged and sabotaged. So there's a lot to be done. There's a lot to be done, okay. James. We need to be able to tell ourselves the truth. Enough is enough. We cannot continue to subvert the will of the people and expect that Nigeria will move forward.
Okay, Governor-elect, let me take you back to the issue of insecurity. You mentioned something about communities in just Plateau State. What plans do you have in place for the people that have been displaced actually as a result of insecurity in your state?
Thank you, James. It's a test of our humanity when we find people in IDP camps, languishing in trauma, and we don't care about it. For me, as a human being, I think that the humane side of me comes to play here, and I will do all I can to ensure that these people return to their ancestral homes so that they can live life better than they are at the moment. Now, it's not going to be a walk in the park, like I've said elsewhere. It's going to be a carrot and stick diplomacy. It's going to be a multifaceted approach, because where lands have been occupied by people who displaced the original owners, you're not going to simply make a speech and they go away. We're going to need the collaboration of the federal government to ensure that these things are sorted out and people can return legitimately to their lands. But as they are going back, if we succeed in getting the places cleared and safe for them, we also need to think of how to provide them with the economic wherewithal so that they can kickstart their lives again. We also need to give them medical attention because many of them are psychologically traumatized, and it's going to be a composite arrangement. The only thing I can tell you, James, we are determined to change that narrative.
Okay. All right, thank you very much. And now I'll move to seeing videos of your people rejoicing on the streets of Plateau State, saying, oh, they were obviously excited. And for once, it feels like the people's mandate was actually recognized in this case. So I'll say congratulations again. And what do you have in line for the first 100 days in office?
Thank you, Mercy. The spontaneous outbreak of joy and excitement on the plateau is unprecedented.
Yeah.
And it's quite humbling that people have rejoiced in our victory, have accepted our victory. It gives them hope that things can be done differently. It brings a refreshing hope of change, genuine and true change. This we do not take for granted. We therefore feel a sense of responsibility. I can tell you I'm a bit frightened by the expectations of the people, but again, that fires in me a determination to ensure that I succeed. And what we intend to do, therefore, is to make sure that our policies are plateau-centric. They are concerned about the welfare, the well-being, and the security of the people of Plateau State. And we're going to make sure that from the issues of security to the issues of poverty alleviation, these are things we're going to be looking at to make life better for our people. At the end of the day, when we're rounding up our tenure, we want to leave Plateau better than we'll meet it from May 29th. That will be our plans in a nutshell.
All right, thank you, Mr. Governor-elect. And now I'll move on to the party issues. And for 8 years, APC has ruled Plateau State. What do you think the people should expect from PDP now? Because, of course, people were singing and dancing that PDP has won. What do you think people should expect in the next 4 years from you and your party?
Yes, like I've said at other fora, the PDP has always been the party of the Plateau. Plateau people regard PDP as their party, and I can assure you that the APC interruption in the PDP arrangement, in the love affair with PDP, hasn't yielded the desired result. So we're going back. We're going to ensure we avoid the mistakes of the past, and we're going to make sure that we improve on the performances of the past. Some of the best times Plateau has witnessed was under the PDP arrangement, particularly the last PDP government in power. And we're going to make sure that that becomes our benchmark, our takeoff point, rather, that we will be able to deal with the issues of economic empowerment, infrastructural development. We are going to make sure that we deliver on good governance. We bring forth the dividends of democracy for the benefit of our people. And I can tell Plateau people to expect that Plateau will not be the same by the time we are done.
Okay, Governor-elect. Let's talk about your plans for just Plateau State when it comes to agriculture. Your state is blessed with a lot of lands and, space for farmland. What's your plan on agriculture, Governor-elect?
Thank you, James. It's not just about land, it's about fertile land, blessed land, and then clement weather, fantastic weather we have. And virtually anything grows here. Now we're going to look at our competitive advantage to make sure that farming is done better. We must change the orientation of our farmers from doing subsistence farming into business farming. And we're going to see how first we expand the agricultural season beyond the rainy season. We're going to also attempt, and I think would succeed, to expand the value chain of agriculture so that at every level of the value chain, we can be able to create and generate employment, and so that our youth teeming youth can find an opportunity to come in. We're going to diversify, of course, the options in agriculture beyond mere crop farming into some other crops that have economic advantage. We're going to look at issues like sunflower and coffee that has developed, fruits, strawberries that we import have done extremely well on the plateau in the past. So we're going to look at how to motivate our farmers to do better in that regard. We're going to revive one of the most successful agricultural programs in Nigerian history, the ASTC, which was highly commended during the Goodluck administration. And it's about a grave to cradle approach in terms of agricultural management. We're going to strengthen it and make sure that it delivers on the expectations of the ordinary people. So there's a lot in store that we can do about agriculture, not to talk about livestock, not to talk about fisheries. Yeah. These are all aspects that we're looking at.
Okay, so Governor-elect, I'm sure you don't intend to run the state with your own personal money. Let's talk about revenue generation.
And before you answer that, I'd like to bring us back to the education part, where you said you'll be leveraging on State Primary Education Board to bring changes required to basic education level, and you made mention of TET Fund. Then how would you intend to step in? Is it all of this, is it going to be from the government money, or do you intend to raise funds? Because of course we've seen the continuous ASU strike going on right now in the country, and there's been a lot of back and forth. How do you intend to generate funds for all of this?
Yes, it's funding all the critical sectors is not going to be voodoo or rocket science. Yeah. We have to ensure that government gets more revenue. The internally generated revenue of government must increase. At the moment, I know, for example, 20% it's only about 20% of the revenue that comes to government that comes from business and commerce. 80% of it comes from payee, which is payment of salaries. Now we're going to have to move the 20% upward. And Mercy, you had asked about what will I achieve in the first 100 days. I like to avoid the 100 days cliche, and just know that there are some things we must do immediately. There are some things we have to do in the short term, in the medium term, and in the long term. So one of it is to grow the revenue graph, particularly focusing on the business sector. What are we going to do? We're going to block loopholes. We're going to ensure that waste is also eliminated, and that our tax management system is thoroughly modernized and digitalized, so that we ensure that every kobo that is supposed to come into government coffers comes in. And once we do that, then we're going to look at other sources of revenue that we'll be able to tap into to increase government revenue. From there, we can finance anything we want to finance, because key to our agenda is the improvement in our credit rating. At the moment, our credit rating with our creditors is very low. We need to quickly improve on that so that we can leverage on the financial system. Of course, another key aspect is the PPP arrangement, public-private initiative, in managing some of these issues. And we're going to explore it and see how it is most beneficial to our people.
Okay, all right, Mr. Governor. And now, still speaking on education, the state has a university, Bokos University. Of course, what's your plan for this said university? Are you looking to refurbish and make it one of the best, or possibly the best in the country right now?
Sure. The Plateau State University in Bokos is the flagship tertiary institution in the state.
Yeah.
And I can assure you that we're going to raise standards there. We're going to raise standards. We're going to demand that mediocrity be eliminated from the system. And so you're going to see that we're going to bring there back in terms of managing that institution. We ensure that there are round pegs in round holes, and we're going to look for people who have global ideas that can bring to bear to impact on our local situation to ensure that they help us in positioning the university to become what it is. We're going to look for assistance from far and wide, from far and near, to ensure that the university is adequately funded and to be able to attract some of the best hands in the various departments that that are currently accredited. We want to ensure that students that graduate from that university can be able to hold their own anywhere within the global space.
All right, thank you for that. And now, as we round up on a lighter note, have you gotten calls from other parties to congratulate you? Right now, of course, there's been a lot of back and forth between other political parties, but you and I would agree that people voted for you and not even the party, which is something everybody, as obviously said, they love to see on the polity right now. So have you gotten calls, actually, Mr. Governor?
Mercy, I've been inundated with calls. Sometimes I feel like throwing away the phone, but the calls keep coming. And I can tell you it's quite exciting, though with a heavy price in terms of my time. But I appreciate all the calls that are coming in, the goodwill expressed. And I am pretty sure that we would settle down to be able to plan well on how not to disappoint the people. So we'll keep creating opportunities to receive the calls, but we also have to create opportunities for thinking time.
Okay.
All right, thank you so much for joining us on the program today. That was the Governor-elect of
Thank you very much,
Plateau
Mr.
State.
Governor.
Thank you so much, sir.
Would hope we'll see you once
Thank
again
you,
some
James.
other time
Thank
on the
you,
program.
Miss.
Do have a great day.
It will be my utmost pleasure. Thank you.
All right. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. And our viewers at home, this is where we take a quick break on the press, and when we return, the press continues.